Hello guys. Um, am I audible? Is my screen visible to all of you? So today we are going to talk about web development. What are the future requirements in this specific genre, and what are the further scopes? Like what are the job opportunities that are there? What are the technologies you will be working on? So we are going to talk about all of these things, and all of this is going to be covered in today's session. So let me know if my screen is visible to all of you and if my audio is also proper. If there are any issues, please let me know in the chat and we can start with the session. Okay. So meanwhile, if you have any questions related to this particular field, you can also let me know those questions. You can write down those questions and we will have a long question answer session at the end of this video, and I'll try to answer my best to answer all of your questions if there are any. So if there are any, even the slightest or the tiniest of your doubts, I'll answer all of those, and it would be a very interactive session. I promise you that. So we will wait for 5 to 10 minutes more, and we will start with the session. So we'll wait for some more people to join in, and then we can start with today's session. Okay. So okay. So again, let me repeat myself that today's session we are focusing on web development, and not just web development. We are going to talk in detail about all the technologies that are being used, and the further scopes or all the job opportunities and all the roles you may come across while you are working in the field of web development. So we are going to cover all of these things in today's session, and we are also going to address all of your question answers. So if you have any questions, please write those down, and we will definitely try to answer all of the questions, and I'll try my best. If I cannot answer any questions, we will also reach out to you via emails or something after doing a certain amount of research on your questions. So if you have any, please write them down so that it would help everyone to clear their doubts, and to have a better quality in general out of this session. We are going to do that. So we'll wait for 5 more minutes, and we will start with today's session. So we will start in 5 more minutes, and the session we are going to talk about the mean stack and the lamp stack and all of these technologies that are powering our today's web, and empowering all the people to overcome this lockdown era in terms of entertainment, in terms of like meetings, or in terms of in general like staying connected. So all of this is being powered by the web, and we are going to learn which are the technologies which are doing this. So like when we talk about web, we're talking about a certain combination of technologies, and this is what we are going to discuss today. So if you have any of your friends who have not joined yet, so please tell them to join as soon as possible so that we can start the session quickly. Yeah. So what I would suggest, guys, is that you should keep your questions uh, with you right now. And when we start with the question answer sessions, please drop the questions there. Otherwise, like they will get lost in the comment section if there are many. So we will be having around 30 minutes or 35 minutes of question answer session at the end of this particular session. So like it would be fun. I would like request you to um stay till the end and go through each and every question answers, because like even if you don't have any particular question, it might help you to know a bit more. Someone else's question might also help you, right? So uh, that's all I wanted to say. So just 2 3 minutes more and then we will start with the session. Okay, so in 2 minutes we'll start with the session at sharp 8:10, and so we are going to discuss about web development in general, and web development is the technology which is powering our today's world. And we are going to unfold all the stacks, and we are going to see what are all the layers that are like making this all possible, like me interacting with you over the internet via a website known as StreamYard, which is in turn then connecting with YouTube, and you are able to see me. So how is this all being possible? So we are going to discuss this all and much more. So this is all about our today's session. Like this is kind of the overview of our today's session. So we'll start in a minute. Okay, so I guess we can start with this session. So first of all, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining on a Sunday evening. And obviously, we are going to talk about the web development and its scopes and future requirements. So it must be obvious by the title of my slide, but we are also going to look in a bit detail about all the technologies that are being used in the web development life cycle, or in the web development technology stack, or whatever you want to call it. So in general, uh, I just wanted to bring your attention towards this particular field in IT, or this particular field in development. So this is important because like in today's world, everything is part of the web. And even if you're making mobile applications, even if you're making like desktop applications, they all have certain aspect in terms of web. So there is this part which is always connected to the web. Even in the games, like if we are talking about the games like the PUBG or anything, any of these games, even that whatever it may be, like Snake or this Ludo King and all those things. So all these games also are multiplayer because of the web. They are all connected over the web. They are using particular technologies which are part of the web technology stack. So this is why web is important in general, and web is only going to grow. Like people are like thinking about interlinking people's brain and things these days. So this is also kind of a network. When you talk about IoT, Internet of Things, this is also kind of a network, and they operate over these web protocols, which are HTTP, HTTPS, and whatnot. Like all of these things are at the end using web technologies. So this is what I wanted to like put out there. And when people talk about all of these like hyper advanced technologies or high tech companies as well, which are working on like IoTs, robots, and then mobile applications, and all of these things, even they are having a certain aspect which is at the end powered by the web or the web protocols. So this is why web development is important, because every product these days has a certain web component. So we are going to look into a bit detail today about all of these web components and all of the technologies that are involved and how it all works together in the end. So let's get started. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Chaitanya Deshpande. I work at TCS, or Tata Consultancy Services, and I'm a full stack developer. I also like to make mobile and web applications. So my GitHub handle is right here. So if you want to like follow me on GitHub or anything like that, if you like open source code, you can follow me on GitHub at the 301 Spartan. So let's start with the session. Okay. So web dev or web development is basically the process of developing your web application. This is pretty basic stuff. I didn't even wanted to involve this into the PPT, but then everything needs a definition, right? So web development is the process of making your web application. Now, web development, the product of web development is a web app or a web application or a website or whatever you wanted to make. Now, this particular product of your development process, it works over a certain protocol. So that protocol is basically internet. Internet is basically a network of computers which are talking over a certain network by a certain protocol. Now, protocol in general or vaguely speaking is a set of rule. So like I wanted to talk with one of my friends, and as friends we have a certain rule, like a person A is my friend, I'm person B. So if I want to talk with him, I need certain language, I need a certain set of rules, like how will I call him, how will I address that particular person, or how is that we are going to exchange particular things. So these set of rules are known as protocols. So internet works over protocols. Now, some of the very basic protocols or the very important and the most used protocols are HTTP and HTTPS. Now, that stands for Hypertext Transport Protocol. Now, the name itself is explaining what is happening over here. So, Hypertext Transport Protocol, HTTP, right? So some sort of text is being transferred. We don't know what that is, but we will come into that later. So these web applications or the product, the end product of web development, it works over the internet or intranet. Now, intranet is something like it is not accessible to everyone. It is a private network, so that is intranet. Now you can say that the biggest intranet in the world is China for because obvious reasons that there you cannot like directly website any of you cannot visit any of the website in China directly, so you can call it like not everyone can visit that, so that's why we are calling it an intranet, or maybe a LAN network or which is there in your college or maybe in your home if you have multiple computers. That is all part of the intranet. Now, but internet is something which is available for everyone, which is out there over the internet, and anyone can access it with the given or specified protocols. So that is basically web development. You are just making something which is going to work over the internet or the intranet based on a certain protocol. So I guess this much is clear that what is web development. So if there are any doubts, just drop it into the live chat or anything like that. So we can also repeat this if you want. So if there are not, I'll just proceed. Yeah. So now we are going to talk about the web applications today for the first part. So web applications are basically like website. I'll show you a web application if you want. So this is a web app which I have made. It is bsgondia.org. So it is a simple website. So as you can see, it has a certain UI. There are some buttons. Some things happen when you click on those buttons. And this is all UI. So there are some photos, there is some text, there are some links, there are some buttons, right? So all of this is overall known as the UI or the user's interface. Now, okay. So yeah, UI is generally made in HTML and CSS. So this part is not known as programming. This should be clear. This is HTML or CSS. These things are not known as or not recognized as programming languages because they are UI development languages. They are simply just telling you what element should be where and what is the text that should be there in that element or how that element should look, what should be its color, what should be its font size, or what should be its font, or things like that. So HTML and CSS are generally used to design a particular web application or a web app. So you all might have like had a certain flavor or a certain knowledge of HTML. It is taught in the schools today as well. I don't know, but yeah, okay. So we are going to also cover a little bit of that, not much. We are just going to talk about the overview. Okay. So every website or every web application will have a certain UI. Without a UI, no website can exist today. Like it won't be a website, it will be just an API then if there is no UI. So we are going to talk about like static websites first. So static websites are the websites which like don't have any backend. So just read the statement once so you will understand what I'm trying to say. So every web app has a front end and may have a back end. Now this may have part is very important. Like some websites don't have a backend at all. Okay, so they are just totally front end. Like if you want to simply promote something, or there is a website for a gym, for example, they just want to display images of some fit boys and girls. They just want to like promote their particular thing, and for that a static website is enough, right? So many people like come in general asking you to design me a website or develop me a website, it should have a basic information about my company. It should have my photo. It should have something known as about me, something known as contact us, and all those things. So if that's the only requirement, you don't need a backend. So that kind of a particular website will be known as a static website. For example, here is an basic example of a static website. So ctsidlab.com. If you visit here, this is basically empty. There is nothing. There is one image over at the top. There are like what are the services we offer. We do have Android, web and web security. Then this is the team. If this is your basic requirement, then a static website is enough. Now coming back here, that now some of the web applications which are critical, which use certain business logic, which are performing certain tasks, they will also need a backend. Now backend is where all the magic happens, or it should be. Like backend is the code which is not visible to users. So what I'm saying is, if you simply visit to ctzlab.com, if you press F12 and you go to sources, let me just refresh this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So as you can see here, all of the HTML code of this particular website is visible to me. So like if I wanted, I can simply just copy this whole thing. I can simply copy this whole HTML code. It's not code basically, it's HTML file. Yeah, HTML file. So I can simply copy it and I can paste it somewhere else, and my UI will look kind of similar to this. So I'll also need to copy the CSS files and everything else. So but yeah, that can be done. So if there is anything critical or any business logic going on at your website, it should be at the backend, because this code is not visible. This runs on the servers. The main difference between the front end and back end is that the front end runs on a web browser. So we are using Chrome. This is Chrome. And as you can see that the HTML code is coming to the Chrome and it is trying to run it. So the way it works is we are using HTTP. So if I visit that website again, so you can see here that this website is working over a certain protocol known as HTTPS. So what this means is Hypertext Transport Protocol Secured. So what it means is that hypertext or the HTML code is going to be transferred to the browser. So like what is happening? The browser or the Chrome browser is going to this particular server which has a particular address known as cities@lab.com, and when I hit enter, it goes to that particular server. That server is giving Chrome browser some data. Which is that data? That data is your HTML code. This is that particular data. So this data is coming to the browser, and now the browser is trying to make sense out of this data, and it is converting it into UI. So this is how your browser works. This is how your browser like makes all these elements, makes all these buttons and images and all that things, all of these little animations. All of the information is being transferred by the server to the front end or to your browser, whatever it is, and this is how it is working. So if this part is clear, let me know in the chat, then we can like further talk about backend. So if there are any doubts, please put it into the live chat. Okay, I guess this much is clear. So yeah, backend. Now we're talking about the logic which is critical, and the logic which has a certain critical code which cannot be transferred to the front end. So you cannot basically write that particular part of your logic in JavaScript or any of the front end technologies, right? So what you have to do is uh, you have to learn backend. So now when we talked about front end, we have also written some of the technologies which are used in the front end, that are JavaScript, HTML and CSS, right? So but we have not written anything in front of backend. What that means is you can practically use anything at your backend if you are willing to work hard. Now, obviously, there are some of the ones which are relatively easy to do at the back use at the backend. So one of them is Python, very famous these days. So Python is one. Then we have PHP, again a very famous programming language, which is still used today, and it has the most market share over the web as a backend service. Now then there is Java. Again, this can be used extensively at your backend. You can use Perl, very famous again. All of the P ones are amongst the main culprits. So yeah, again, then we have JavaScript as well. So yeah, but JavaScript is not used in its basic format. We use Node.js. So Node.js is a framework of JavaScript which is used at the backend. Again, you can use also Express.js, Express.js. Then there are many other things which you can use to develop your backend. So yeah, but the most famous one currently is either PHP or Java. There is a debate. There's a huge debate now. PHP is considered to be old and not that secured when compared to all the other ones, but that is not true. PHP has the has newer versions which are equally or more so capable. So even Facebook is made in PHP. If you visit here, so as you can see, if this page, so this page has an extension with .php. So yeah, I'm not logged in right now. So this is a PHP page. Like if you remove this part, as you can see, Facebook is also using PHP, so that must mean something, right? So it's not out of nowhere they decided to use PHP. They might have done their SWOT analysis and whatnot. So PHP is again there, Java is there, then Python again very nice and recent or the trending one. So you can all use all of these things. You can also use Node.js, again one of the very trending technologies these days. So yeah, but you can choose. It depends. Every company uses something different or something more so or different so, right? So if you talk about Apple and things like that, they will go with their own programming language. They will make their own programming language for any particular use case. If they find that this thing is very important for their business, they will invest money enough to develop a separate programming language for that. So it doesn't matter which one you know, but you must know something if you want to be called a full stack developer, or if you want to develop a complete website on your own. So this is all. Like a web development process has two ends or two working stations, you can call. So one will be front end, where you will develop your UI, where you will make your front end API calls or something like that. And there will be a backend where all of your interaction with the database should be done. All of your business logic should be at the backend, and all of the business critical things, they should be at the backend. So I hope this much is clear. Web development has two aspects to it. One is front end, and the second one is backend. So is this clear? If it is, please drop a message saying that it's clear, or yes, simply anything. I'll consider it as a yes. So, okay, thank you. So let's now continue with how this all works, right? So as we briefly talked a moment back, that web browsers. Yeah, let's talk about the web browsers first. So web browsers are basically programs, right? So Chrome, it's a program. It's made in Java, if I'm not wrong. Then Firefox is one more popular browser. You have your Edge, you have the Internet Explorer, and things like that. So we have many web browsers. Now, how do you ensure that all the websites look the same, work the same for all the web browsers, right? Because you're just making a website which is supposed to run on any web browser, or ideally it should be so, right? So if I make a website, say this is the website I made, this is one of the websites I made. So if it is open in Chrome, or if it is open in say Firefox, let me just open this in Firefox as well. So wait a minute. Okay, so I had a proxy set in Firefox. So yeah, but if you're making a website which is supposed to work anywhere, no matter the screen size, no matter which browser, no matter which operating system, no matter which processor, or no matter anything, then you need a website which is scalable and which works. But then all of these web browsers are supposed to work in a similar fashion, right? So if Firefox says that I'm going to interpret HTML in a certain way X, and Chrome says that I'm going to interpret HTML in a certain way Y, then it won't work. Like, see here, as we saw you earlier that yeah, okay. So here we have this website B is going to open, right? So this is its HTML code, and in Firefox, even if you like, I'll also put it at the right so that it's better comparable. So yeah, so this is the code in, yeah, so this is the code in like Firefox. It is the same code basically. So they are both using the same set of hypertext, and they are different programs running on a single operating system. Still they are supposed to look the same, right? The website is supposed to look the same. All the animations are supposed to like take the same time. They are supposed to like act in the same way, and if I click on a particular button it should perform the same function, and all the things are same. Now how are we achieving this? This is the question. Now, how all of these different browsers are giving you the same end result, even though they are very, very different in terms of the technologies with which they are made. They are very different in terms of what sort of Java rendering engine they are using and things like that. So, we achieve it by having a common architecture for all of the web browsers. So, all of the web browsers are going to have a certain user interface. All of the web browsers are going to have a particular set of uh, data persistence. Data persistence basically means a storage. It's a fancy word, so let's just call it storage. Then every browser is supposed to have a browser engine. A browser engine is something which is like doing all the like necessary tasks or interaction between the UI, the database, or the storage, or the rendering engine, and all the other things, right? So all of the browsers are supposed to have a HTML or UI rendering engine. All of the web browsers are supposed to have the set of protocols which we talked about earlier, known as the networking protocols, or they are going to have a certain module which will handle all of the networking. So all of the browsers are going to have a JavaScript interpreter. Now, JavaScript has to be the language which you use at the front end. Now, when I say this, it means that you can only use only ONLY in caps and bolds and everything. You can only use JavaScript at the front end as of now in any browser. So like all of the web browsers are supporting only JavaScript. So you're supposed to use JavaScript at the front end. Yeah. So and all of the browsers are going to have a UI backend, like the way you like interpret the UI and things like that. So if we like decide on these building blocks, then we are going to have a common product or a common outcome, yeah, common outcome out of a similar set of instructions or a same code base. So if I open a website in Firefox, or if I open it in Chrome, it won't have that much of a difference. So this is basically what we mean what we are trying to achieve, right? So I hope this is clear that these are the basic building blocks of a web browser. So if one day you suddenly decide to make a web browser, you should like remember this diagram. Otherwise, the thing will not be considered as a web browser because it's not following the basic agreement on web browsers, that what a web browser should have and what a web browser should not have and things like that. So this is basically acknowledged by all the companies which are like making web browser. Mozilla is one, then Google is one, then Microsoft is one, then Samsung is one, then I mean all the companies which are making the web browsers, right? So I hope this much is clear about the web browsers. So you can open the code inside the browser by pressing F12. F12 if you press simply, so like if I want to see the code here, I'll simply press F12 on my screen. So it will open this developer tools, and it has many components. It has like this. There are many. I'll tell you the significance of each one of these at the end of the session. So I guess this much is clear. So can we proceed? Anyone in the live chat, please? Okay, so I hope that this much is clear. So let's now talk about how HTML basically works and how you see the elements that you are seeing. So as we talked earlier, like let's like also do some demo. Otherwise, it will get kind of boring. So let's open Visual Studio Code here. Let's open a new file. Let me just open. Okay. So I've opened a fresh window of Visual Studio Code, and let me just create a file for you guys. Let's create a file in documents or say desktop. Okay, so we are going to create a file in desktop. So in we are using Linux. So what we are going to do is touch index.html, right? So it created a file for us. Here is your index.html file. So I'll open it in Visual Studio Code. Okay. So yeah, we have created an HTML file. So let's just make a HTML tag. I'm just writing some particular code. You don't need to like understand this right now. So I'll just write it quickly and try to explain it. Okay. So you don't need to worry. My code. Okay. So let's make body h1 hello. Okay, so this is a very basic HTML thingy I have written. So let's open it. Yeah. So as you can see, here you have a certain particular HTML which we just wrote out of like within a minute. So this is the basic HTML. As you can see, there was nothing like we didn't do any programming or anything like this. We just followed the HTML document type and all the DOM object models or all the things that are predefined in the HTML. So like HTML is not a programming language. When you say it's not a programming language, the only thing remains is that it is a hypertext markup language. Now, a markup language is basically a markup language. Markup means like telling that this is here, this is there, and things like that. So, HTML is basically telling this particular HTML document is telling that the title is my code, and in the body of the document, body means this particular white space from like here to here, right? So, this is the body of your particular HTML document. So it's just telling that there is one h1. H1 means heading 1, and there is simple heading which reads as this. So here is your heading. So if you simply like remove the exclamations and save it and reload it over here, so it will remove it. So it's very simple, right? So this is very easy to understand. Even like the process of you trying to understand this particular code, which is of 7 lines, and is known as interpretation. What you're doing is, oh, there is one HTML tag. Okay, now in that HTML tag there is a head tag, which means that there is going to be a heading. Now there is a title tag, which means that whatever is written in that title tag is supposed to be the title of that particular web document, right? So you are just interpreting this code, right? Then there is the body tag, which means that in the body we are going to have this much of content. Now the first content is h1, means it's going to be a big heading. It's one, it's big. In HTML the cycle is reverse. So if you have like a h6, it's going to be smaller than what a h1 is, so it's basically reverse. So H6 is small, H1 is the biggest, and yeah, things like that. H7 is the smallest. Okay. So this is basically known as interpretation. If this is clear, we can simply replicate this in a program, right? So if you are able to interpret it, even a program can interpret it. You can simply write a program which takes HTML files as input and like processes it and gives you a list of all the components, right? So this is what a browser does. It takes the HTML code and it constructs a DOM tree. Now, what is a DOM tree? A very technical word, right? But it's not that difficult, trust me. So, like, I'll show you a DOM tree. Okay. So here, as you can see that, okay, come on. Okay, so this is not supporting it. Just give me a minute. Yeah, here. Now, so as you can see, we can simply like minimize this codes, right? So what's there in the heading? So these are all the things that are there in the heading. Okay. So this, what's there in the body? So these are all the things in the body. Now you can also further expand this, and whatnot. Like I'm showing you right now. This particular thing is known as a DOM tree. It's basically a tree has branches, right? So like there is one basic stem which comes off the ground, and then there are branches. I guess all of you might have seen a tree. So this is basically kind of similar thing. So HTML is basically the branch. This has the whole thing. Like everything is originating from HTML tag. Now in HTML there is one branch head and one branch body. Now in the head branch there are further sub branches or stems, whatever you call it. I don't know. So there are more branches in the body as well. So in the navigation thing, there is one more branch, and then there in that there are more branches. So things like that. This is basically a tree kind of a structure, right? So I hope this is clear what a DOM tree is. Okay, so this is basically a DOM tree, and this is how your browser interprets or makes sense out of the HTML code. After making the tree, it basically just has the individual elements, right? So it knows that it has to show hello YouTube in a big heading text, right? So it simply now needs to just show it. That's the last step. After knowing what are all the elements, after traversing the tree, it simply just takes all the data and just displays it whatever as ever whatever was required, right? So this is how HTML works. If this was clear, please let me know so that we can start with JavaScript. That's, I guess, the last thing we are going to discuss today. Oh, the last second thing, yeah. So then we will have the question answers. So let's start with the JS or the JavaScript. So JavaScript is your only choice when you're going to make anything on the front end. So the programming language that the browser understands is JavaScript. Sorry, the JavaScript. Now, if I say the website is supposed to only be made in JS, it would be really difficult because some people don't like JavaScript. It's not that robust, it's not that this and that and feature rich and things like that. So what you can do is you can write your code either in TypeScript or JavaScript or ECMAScript or jQuery, and you can then convert all of that code into JavaScript. So basically what you can do is in Angular, it happens like this. In Angular, you write your front end into TypeScript. So TypeScript is a new programming language. So let's just Google TypeScript. My caps is on, I guess. Yeah. So TypeScript is a programming language. It was developed by Microsoft. Now it is the sole programming language used in Angular. So if you are like trying to learn Angular, you have to at the end learn TypeScript. So what you can do is TypeScript is much more robust than that of JavaScript. It is much easier or much feature rich when compared to JavaScript. So you can basically develop your web application or your web application's front end code into TypeScript, and later you can compile it, and after compilation you will get a JavaScript file. So this is how you can do it. So you can either write your front end code in JavaScript directly, you can write it in TypeScript, or you can write it in any of the JavaScript libraries known as there are many actually. You can use jQuery, Ajax and things like that. So JS has multiple versions, and obviously, and they have certain particular differences on basis of which JavaScript version is supported on which browser, right? So you can find it out like W3 Schools is again a very helpful tool for all the web developers. So JavaScript's original name is basically ECMAScript, and the first version of ECMAScript or JavaScript was, see, the word ECMAScript, it sounds a little difficult, right? It like sounds like weird, I don't know. So ECMAScript is basically ECMAScript was basically informally renamed as JavaScript because Java was very famous those days. Java is still very famous, so why not just name your programming languages JavaScript, because Java is already famous and people will think that basically a marketing thing, right? So yeah, ECMAScript is the original name. So ECMAScript 1 was released in 1997, and today we are at ECMAScript 2018. Yeah. So let me just, so ES6 is supported by Chrome version 51, Firefox version 54, Edge 14, Safari 10, Opera 38, right? So Internet Explorer is not there. So it has also given you a warning that if you write your front end code into say ECMAScript 6, your website will not work on Internet Explorer, right? So because Internet Explorer was discontinued and Edge was brought in, so Edge supports ESX, and then there is also ES7. So only Chrome and Opera support it as of now. Firefox is in the pipeline to bring in support for ECMAScript 7. So yeah, these are like all the versions. And before making the website or before starting your process of making the website, you must like refer this particular page and decide which particular version of ECMAScript are you going to use. So because like you, if you're going with ECMAScript 7, your website will not work on Firefox or Edge. If you go with ECMAScript 6, almost all browsers will work, but Internet Explorer won't work. So this one is basically used by everyone these days because no one uses basically Internet Explorer, and that's fine because Edge is there and it's a nice browser anyways. It depends on your preference. So that's all about JavaScript. So when you are writing your front end code, you can use JavaScript as the programming language or any of the programming languages which can later be compiled into JavaScript. So let's also talk a little bit about, like, there is only one line here. So let's also talk about the backend technology stack. So is this much clear? I'll just start with this slide. So lamp stack, mean stack, and things like that, and all these four-lettered stacks are floating around the internet, right? So, but one of the oldest and one of the like most popular one is LAMP. LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, Python or PHP or Perl. So what it means is you're using Linux operating system, you're using Apache servers, you're using MySQL databases, you're and you're using Python, PHP or Perl on your backend. So this is basically the LAMP stack. Oh, I'm just yeah. So this is basically the LAMP stack, and the way it works is very simple. It uses Python or PHP or Perl at the backend, so you can like run or you can use PHP or Perl or Python at your backend. You will have to use MySQL database. You'll have to use Apache servers, and you will have to use Linux operating system on your servers. So this is basically the LAMP stack. Then there is also a mean stack. Mean is oh yeah. So mean stack basically means MongoDB, Express.js, Angular or AngularJS at the front end, and Node.js at the back end. So MongoDB, E for Express.js, then A for AngularJS or Angular, and N for Node.js. So this is the mean stack. Many people like keep saying that I want to use mean.js or mean stack for my project, or I want to use lamp stack for my project. Then there is also a XAMPP thing. So XAMPP basically stands for X operating system, which means that it can run on any operating system. A means again Apache servers. M stands for MySQL database, P stands for PHP, and the other P stands for Perl. So I have the XAMPP open here on my system. So as you can see here, it has a MySQL database, it has an Apache server, and then it has support for PHP and Perl languages. Um, that's basically it. So you can also find a similar thing, XAMPP, for Windows as well, for Mac OS as well, and for Linux I'm using it on Linux as well. So this is the XAMPP or LAMP stack, and then that was the mean stack. So there is one more thing which is trending these days a lot, and that is Firebase. So Firebase is basically platform as a service. So let me just open or show you guys Firebase or what it is. So Firebase basically works on this particular terminology which says that who needs to make a backend? You don't need to make a damn backend. You just need to make the front end. So this is the basic terminology or the mindset or the way Firebase has been made. So Firebase is basically a service by Google. So yeah, so Firebase is a service by Google. So let me just go to docs. So what happens here is you will find most of the backend technologies ready-made. So for example, you need a database, document type database similar to MongoDB or things like that. So what you can do is you can simply use Firestore, which is a database by Firebase, which is by Google. So this is confusing, but it is really easy to use. Like you can simply use it at your front end, and you will get ready-made libraries for that. You like your code or your development type time will be get reduced by half or even less than that if you're using Firebase. So it also has a support for Node.js and Express.js by a port. Yeah, so you can use things like that, and it has ready support for Android, C++, iOS, JavaScript, which means your web apps, and Unity. Unity basically means the gaming platforms. Unity is basically a framework or a SDK where games are made. So yeah, this is basically all about like the backend technologies. So let's start with the question and answers. So let me just unshare my screen first and let me just stop the camera. So if you have any like questions, you can like put it in the chat. And if you have already ha put your question in the chat, please do it again because there are many replies because of all the yeses I asked. So please drop your questions into the chat and I'll answer those. So if you have any questions, please put it into the chat. We have a lot of time today for the question and answers, so like we can clear some doubts and things like that. So if I don't know any of the answers to your question, even that's not an issue. We will like do some research and get back to you with email and things like that. So someone has asked that in which domain should I go? I know Java, PHP, but I'm confused with the frameworks. So what you can do is like you can decide on what you want to be first. Like there are three options for you. Like if you know PHP and Java, both the things are kind of different. Basically, Java is more so used in the big corporates and the big companies. So there are many Java frameworks for the backend and similar thing for the PHP. So like first of all, you need to like decide on which one you want to go with. So if you want to go with Java, there are like various backend frameworks for Java as well. And if you want to go with PHP, there are frameworks for PHP as well. So like for PHP, there is this code igniter thing and many other frameworks. Like for a particular use case you will find different frameworks, so you can use Laravel or CodeIgniter or Cake PHP or Zend framework or things like that. So PHP has all of these many endless amount of frameworks, so you can use any of those. Or like even Java has many frameworks. So in Java you will find like there is Apache Spark, then there is this Celerium. This is a testing framework basically, but then there are many backend development frameworks as well. So you need to choose that. So someone is asked like how to remember the lengthy code. So after a time, you won't basically find the need to remember the code because like you will be able to make it on your own and yeah, that should be it. Like, if what I will suggest is that you should go to like the platforms like HackerRank and create your account there. So if you are able to like reach to a level of 2 or 3 stars in a certain programming language, so you will be at a level that you won't like need to remember the code. So this should be it. So what technology need to learn today to get good exposure in future full stack development? So if you want to go into full stack development, it basically means that you are familiar with at least one front end technology and at least one back end technology. Then you can call yourself a full stack developer, right? So you can go with any of the front end frameworks. So there are many front end frameworks like React, Angular, and then there are many actually. I will not go into detail about the frameworks. It's your choice which one you want to go with. But one of the more famous one, or some of the more famous ones are Angular and Angular and React JS, right? So you have to choose amongst those two for the front end, and similarly for back end, you need to know any of the back end languages. So it can be Java, or it can be PHP, it can be Perl, it can be Ruby, it can be anything you want. So if you know at least one front end and one back end technology, you can say you are a full stack developer. So what are the technologies that the interviewer prefers for web development? So see, the way it works is basically it depends company to company, because like every company uses their own different technology stack. So if you go to Google and say I want to get a job at you, they will say that we do development in Angular because that is our thing. They have basically like made Angular this big, right? So they make most of their websites or all of their websites these days, and at least the front end in Angular, right? So but if you go to Facebook, they will say that we use React because we have made React, and it will be different for them. So you have to decide like what you are aiming, like which company, which sorts of companies are you aiming, which is your favorite technology, and things like that come into matter. But like most of the high tech companies, or most of the companies, they basically focus on your logic. So the language doesn't matter, your technology knowledge or which technology you work on doesn't matter, if you have good logical skills. Like if your problem solving ability is nice, they will think that they will like to believe that you can learn any of the technologies quickly, so it doesn't matter because you have good logic, let's just hire this person. This is how it may work. So average salary for web development in India. So it depends. If you are a fresher, it will be around 4 to 5 lakhs. If you are experienced professional with say 10 to 15 years of experience, it will be proportional to that. It is basically, see how it works in the big companies or the corporate companies. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, all the developers are going to work on the same work, right? Because the company has to make a certain platform. Now, when they are making that platform, even if you have zero experience, even if you have 3 years of experience, even if you have 5 years of experience, you all are going to do basically the same thing. But your salary will be proportional to your experience. So it doesn't actually matter. So So if you are confused with backend technologies, I'll suggest that you start with PHP. It is one of the easiest languages to learn. It is one of the oldest backend technologies, but yet it is the most used backend technologies. Now, if you consider the fact that websites like Facebook, websites like MyAnimalist, or any of the big websites, like they are still relying on PHP to like do their core functionalities. So it's a big thing, and it is really easy to understand if you know basic programming. If you know C, you can easily learn PHP. So someone is asked, as a beginner, from where should one start for web development and front end? So basically, front end starts at designing the UI. So you should obviously know HTML. You should obviously know CSS. These are the things which are like, there are people in big companies who only know HTML, CSS, but they are earning like a lot of money because they are creative and they know how to design new things. So this is also a very important skill as we speak of. Now Google has like more than 200 or so websites, right? They need to have different UI for all of these websites. Now, a person like me, or a person like most of you, or anyone cannot just randomly go and say, I can design UI. You need to be like really good at it. You have to be unique and you need to know these things very well. Like, if someone is blind, how will he use your website? If someone cannot hear, how will he use your website? Or what are the how to place the products on your website, or how to put the advertisement on your website? So otherwise it gets really irritating using those websites which have advertisement which is like everywhere. So designing the UI and deciding the proportion and size and color of the things is a very difficult task. So even if you know only HTML and CSS very, very well, and you have done certain certifications in UI development or UI designing, so then also you can score very decent and nice jobs. So next question is something about Django framework and what are the career opportunities in that. So I have not basically worked on Django framework as of now. I'll just do a bit of research on that and get back to you, because like see, there are these n number of frameworks. Django is basically a Python based framework. Like we I earlier told you about the Zend framework. So Zend framework was a PHP based framework and Django framework is a Python based framework. But there are like more than 100 or so frameworks currently, and still every other company will go and make their own certain sort of framework. Now I have made 5 to 6 websites till now, and now I have made my own way of writing code. I have made my own tools for writing code. So you can say even I have my own framework. So now choosing between these frameworks gets really tricky. Now I will be most comfortable developing code in my own way, right? So I have my own framework or my own certain sets of rules by which I write the code. So this is what basically a framework is. Framework is basically your own certain way of writing the code and your own certain collection of technologies, right? So it depends and changes company to company. So you should not like target one framework and like go all out with it. You should like basically know the technologies which are making this framework. So like we discussed earlier that the mean framework is made up of MongoDB, Angular, Express.js, Node.js, right? So you should try to like know the technologies individually. You should be knowing MongoDB, you should be knowing Angular, you should be knowing all of these individual technologies. Because what happens is many times, like people like me or weird people or the companies, they will like make their own random technology stack. For example, the way I write my code is that I use MongoDB, but then I use PHP at the back end. But then I use Angular at the front end. But then I also use Node.js at times at the back end. So this is why you should not target a particular framework. You should like target a particular technology while you are learning. So some of the companies creating websites using Photoshop, I don't know. There was a tool by Adobe known as the Dreamweaver, which in which you can basically create static websites. So, but that is different from Photoshop. And the Dreamweaver thing, how it worked is you can basically drag and drop elements on the screen, and it will automatically generate the HTML code for that particular UI which you made. So that was Adobe Dreamweaver. What type of web development project is acceptable for job interview? What will be minimum difficulty level? So, see, the way the big companies work is that they will not directly hire you for web development. They will hire you as a graduate. Now, what this means is like anyone can apply for the job. So companies like the IT companies or the companies from India like TechCam or Infosys or TCS or anything, any of these multinational IT companies, the way they work is that they take freshers and they prefer freshers more because they can then themselves train those people into the particular technology stack they use. Now, rarely people are hired directly as web developers, but in that case, you are supposed to be an experienced person and you're supposed to be a person who is a full stack developer and you're supposed to be a person who knows all the technologies in details. So, companies generally hire freshers, and in that, those candidates, it's fine even if they don't know any of the technology. They even if they know basic C, they get hired because then the companies themselves train those individuals in the technology stack the companies are using. So how you can learn web development? This is a nice question. Web development is really easy to learn. So you can simply visit this website w3school.com, and let me just share my screen for a moment and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are at the W3 schools. So as you can see, let me just go back. Yeah. So as you can see at w3schools.com, they W3 basically means www. So this is a website which is the largest hub for web development, right? So they have all of the web technologies listed here. Like say, suppose you want to learn HTML, so you can start here and you can like basically complete their course, and I can guarantee you like you will be a very competent developer after like completing this particular W3 schools tutorial. Okay, so then if you want to, so they have also given it in sequence. So the first thing which you will do is design the UI. So you will learn HTML and CSS. Then you will need a front-end programming language for which you will use JavaScript. Then you will need a database. So you will learn SQL. So they have given SQL. Then you will learn any of the back-end programming languages, right? So they have given Python or PHP for the back-end. So Python and PHP are the most famous ones, the more famous ones these days at the backend. Then you can use Bootstrap and things like that as well. So they have also given then the advanced things like Bootstrap and jQuery and things like that, right? So this website, I'll put the link in the chat for the website so that everyone can refer it. So the next question, I guess. So yeah, W3 school is a really nice thing. But if you want to go into the advanced thing, like if you want to learn something in a bit more detail, then you can go to Mozilla.com. Mozilla is basically the company which makes Firefox browser. So they also have a really nice documentation for for the web technologies. They have a really nice documentation for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I will suggest that you refer W3 schools as well as Mozilla.com. So like if you are interested in ML or machine learning and AI and things like that, so what you can do is you can like basically and we are talking today in terms of like web development in general, so we are mainly focusing on that. So but if you are interested in things like that, you can basically start learning Python, because like when you learn Python, you are learning AI ML, you're learning data processing and things like that. You're also learning a language which can be used at the back end. So Python has the advantage of being a Swiss Army knife, that it can be used in so many use cases. So you can go with Python at the back end if you prefer. How final year project affect on job interview? And my final year project is on web development. So yeah, final year project is, so see, what I think is that your interview can go as you want, because you are the one who is supposed to drive the interview. And if your final year project is really good, then your interview should be something like 80% your final year project, 10% of introduction, and 10% of negotiation. So this is what I think. If your project is really nice, then you should like tell in detail about your project. And if it is a web application, like I believe that you should tell in detail that what are the technology stacks you used and things like that. So in interviews of web development, they will generally like ask you questions like, what are the technology stacks that you have worked on? What is the front end framework that you're familiar with? So if you say, for example, Angular, they will ask you some questions about Angular if they know. Otherwise, they will just simply ask you about the web protocols, like what is HTTP, what is HTTPS, what is the difference, then what is REST APIs and things like that. So what happens is it depends on the person who is taking your interview. If he knows what you're talking about, he will ask you a lot of questions in that particular thing, or he will just simply ask you the basic or the general things which everyone is supposed to know. So, are there any more questions? So, guys, if you haven't already, then please like the video and share it with your friends and your colleagues. And if there are any questions, let me know. We are here till 9:20, 25, think something like that. So if there are any questions, please put them down into the chat. And if you haven't, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel and things like that. I don't know. So any more questions? So how to find jobs off campus? So this channel itself is a really nice platform for like finding the jobs. So what we put out videos about the job openings in various companies and how to prepare for those interviews and things like that. So you can like go through this channel's other videos as well. You can also like subscribe to things like naukri.com and myworkday.com. So this is where you will find more job offers. So like if you register at naukri.com and build a profile, upload your resume, and you make a nice profile on LinkedIn, then you will get job offers from there as well. So this is how you can like go for off campus. So I guess there will be a feedback for this session as well. So if you have any suggestions, you can put it in the feedback form. And any more questions, then please go ahead. We can have 2 to 3 more questions. Uh, any more questions? So MERN stack is basically the same thing, but the A is replaced by R. So what it means is that MERN is Mongo Express.js, R is now React.js instead of AngularJS, and N is Node.js. So like MERN stack is also used, but I'll say mean stack is more famous. There are jobs out there for MERN stack as well. So companies who use React will use MERN stack. That's like that. So MERN stack is also there. Yeah. So any more questions? So if you want to join any MNC, so the process is basically simple that these companies they have a India-wide hiring entrance test, and they will like have that test and hire you directly as a fresher, and then they will like ask you what are your interests, and then you can like go on with it. So if you are experienced, then only the MNCs will directly take you as a web developer. Otherwise, you will be hired as a fresher and trained in the technology stack first. So, any other questions? So, we have such sessions every Sunday, right? So, you can also consider subscribing to this channel. And if you do so, you will also keep getting this timely updates for like the openings in all these companies, all the big companies, the MNCs, and even the public sector companies. So if you just go through the video list for the channel, you will find very interesting topics and many openings here and there. So please subscribe to the channel. So I guess this is it. Is there any question? I'll wait for like 2 3 minutes more, and then we can like close the session. Are there any more questions? So if you know basic Java and you want to develop your logical skills, then what you can do is you can like go to hackerrank.com, and there you will find many like thousands of questions on Java. So you will also directly get job offers from that particular website as well. So if you like solve around 100 200 questions and things like that, so you will get a very nice profile ranking. And the big companies, the big tech companies, they all like also hire people from the hacker rank as well. So if you have a nice profile on hacker rank with like say 5 stars and things like that, so there is a very huge possibility that you get a job offer. So hackerrank.com, go there, create an account, select Java as your interest, and start solving. So So guys, you can reach out to me on my email ID, that is chaitanya@ctzlab.com. So I'll put it in the chat as well. So you can reach me out at this email ID, and in case of like any concerns, so I'll just share my screen for a minute for showing you this particular slide. So you can like follow me on GitHub, that is the 301 Spartan, so that you can find various projects by me, and they are all open source. Most of it are open source, so that you can get the source code from there, and you can try to like learn things from that as well. So you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. So if you are interested into development in general, that's all. So that's all for today's session, I guess. So let's end this session. Thank you again for joining, and please like this video. Also share it with your friends, and also subscribe to the channel. That's all. Thank you all. Thank you for joining. Good night, good evening, whatever the time may be at your place. Bye.